Me, my cousin, and my brother-in-law are all heading on a 1-week hunt in the remote wilderness of Alaska. It's snowing and cold in the entire area, and we will be hunting and hiking the hills as we continue our journey. A little history about the area. It used to be an old Indian reservation when businessmen found gold in the local streams and mountains. The gold was already being used by the local Indian tribes, and fights ensued between the native Indians and the businessmen wanting to forage the new gold they found. The elders tell us the fights ensued for months until the majority of the Indian warriors had all been killed off, and the businessmen began foraging the local rivers and hills for gold, silver, and other precious metals in the area. My brother-in-law, who's with us on this trip, works as a personal hunting guide in the mountains of West Virginia, so he has plenty of experience and will be the man in charge during our trip. He's let me borrow all the gear I need for the trip, including my tent, jackets, and shoes. I brought my own personal rifle and handguns along with a rental shotgun I got in town for this trip. I have a total of 65 pounds of gear on my body as we head out for a 1-week trip into the mountains. The snow is light and it's early morning. We see an abundance of wildlife, from bears in the distance, deers, and eagles flying and soaring up above. The scenery is absolutely beautiful, but can also be deadly if not prepared for the weather. The snow picks up a little more heavy as my brother-in-law tells us let's set up camp for the night and we'll continue early morning. He pointed out a rocky area on the mountain that was sheltered from the north winds that made it feel a lot colder if it hit your bare skin. We hiked over the shelter location and began setting up our tents. My cousin had finished his tent setup and was gathering large boulders and placing them in a circle to start a campfire. It was quite the amazing view. It was snowing, the trees were covered in snow, and we were sheltered around 200 feet above on the side of the mountain overlooking the entire valley. I could see why the Indians fought with their lives to protect this area. It felt extremely spiritual, and the air felt as fresh as it gets. The night had dawned upon us while we all sat around the fire chatting while drinking constant cups of hot tea. My cousin is married to a Thai woman, so he's learned to make one of the best Thai teas I have ever tasted. As my brother-in-law said he was heading to his tent, we all got up, leaving the campfire running, told each other to have a good night as we all crawled into our individual one-man tents. I got into my sleeping bag and warmed up completely within 10 minutes. I had drank a lot of tea before bed, so it was only 3 hours into my sleep when a random noise out in the woods woke me up. I laid silently to hear if my brother-in-law or cousin woke up and said anything. I could hear both of them snoring out loud as they took individual breaths at separate times. I listened a while longer and could only hear the noises of nature and the wind howling over the mountain. I really had to pee at this point and forgot to bring in my empty bottle, so I wouldn't have to go out in the cold. As I looked around for my bottle, I had to get up quick and exit my tent. The campfire was still glowing red and hadn't turned off completely. I walked towards the end area of our campsite and began to pee along the footing of a tree. As I stood there, I glanced into the woods, and that's when I saw it. I saw an entire battalion of Indians standing shoulder to shoulder looking in our direction. I rubbed my eyes and glanced into the woods again, and sure enough, there was an entire army of Indians, probably 100 men, standing shoulder to shoulder, lining the woods about 200 feet in. They were all just standing there with no movement, looking towards the mountain we were camping on. I freaked out and tried not to make any movement. I looked back up at our campsite, which was only 30 or 40 feet away, and wondered if I should make a run for my weapons. I sat quietly for what felt like an eternity. As I glanced back into the woods, I could no longer see anyone. It was empty, and all I could see were the trees of the rigid wild north of Alaska. The entire army of Indians had just seen a minute before were gone, and there wasn't a single man in sight. I ran back to my tent, waking up my brother-in-law and cousin, explaining what I just saw. My cousin, in a sleepy voice, told me I was having a bad dream, go back to bed, to wake him up when the Indians knock on his tent. They clearly don't believe what I saw. I don't know how to explain this to anyone, and I don't want to continue hiking these mountains anymore. I live in the Everglades of Florida. I love the outdoors, from fishing, hunting, exploring, and anything else this state has to offer. My house is right along a canal that is loaded with wildlife. It's full of tilapia, which are invasive in our area, and tons of other native and tropical fish people dump in the water from their aquarium tanks they have at home. We will usually catch a random tropical fish when fishing my canal in the backyard. On occasion, you see a small caiman cruise by with their eyes gliding above the surface of the water. In the warmer months, they will be seen on the sandbank, soaking in the hot summer rays, usually guarding their nest of eggs. There's a lot of old tales in my areas that have been passed down from generations of people living here. A real popular one is the swamp Ape Man, which has been my personal fear since I was just a young school kid. My grandpa would tell me tales about a large Bigfoot-like creature that would be seen at night walking down the canal, looking for food, and would eat any type of meat it could hunt down, from alligators, fish, and even humans. As I grew older, I figured the story was just to keep us kids inside at night to avoid any possible nighttime dangers. As I grew older, me and the local neighborhood boys would go down to the canals and do some night fishing. We would always catch larger catfish at night, although I don't like the taste, so I personally would release them all after I caught them. Then one night, while fishing along the banks of the canal, my friend says, "What the hell is that?" as he points down the canal. I glanced over and could see the tall grass moving from side to side, as if something was walking through it. We both began frantically reeling our fishing lines in as the grass instantly stopped moving at once. We began packing our tackle box while staring into the grassy area when we saw, in one swift jump, a huge hairy creature jump from the grassy canal onto the side bank. He took 2 large steps and disappeared into the bush. My friend's girlfriend, who was by his side, began crying in fear as we grabbed our belongings as fast as we could. I left my chair behind and told them, "Run, let's get out of here," as we all ran up the bank of the canal towards the main road. We all made it back to my friend's house safely, while we all stood there quietly, wondering what we just encountered. We were all in his living room and didn't want to step outside. I still had to walk 3 minutes down the road to my house, since my friend's girlfriend will be staying the night with him. I looked out the window and told them, "Okay, I'll call you as soon as I get home." As I ran out the front door, I sprinted as fast as I could, heading towards my house. I could see my dad sitting on the porch in his rocking chair smoking a cigarette. My anxiety slowly began to calm down as I figured I was home safe. I'm not sure if I should tell my dad about what we encountered, since he's always telling me to stop night fishing the canals. I'm part of the local hunting community. It's a group of over 40 men and women who are experienced hunters, and on occasion we will gather in groups of over 15 hunters and head out to remote wilderness areas in the hunt for larger and larger boars. We have a competition between all us hunters. Whoever bags the largest boar receives the jackpot prize, which is $20 for each hunter that participates. It's a few $100s, which, believe it or not, really gives me the extra joy to compete for the next largest boar. Hunting boars alone can be sketchy, since they are known to attack humans and chase you down until they pin you down and begin eating you alive. They weigh over 300 pounds and have razor-sharp teeth full of bacteria that will cause infections on human flesh. The boars are considered invasive pests in this area due to them being imported years ago illegally and began reproducing in record numbers. We look for the largest boars in the pack for our hunt, which are usually the alpha males that reproduce more piglets every day. Hoping to get the largest from the groups will also slow down the repopulation of these large beasts. We begin our hunts at night, since the boars usually burrow and hide in the daytime and come out in the evening to feed. We bow hunt for the boar since it makes it more difficult and competitive to hunt down larger and larger hogs. The evening had dawned upon us, and we were all out climbing the hills looking for the common wild boar. I could hear loud screeching in the distance. I instantly knew someone had already taken down their first hunt. I looked at my partner as we both smiled and kept walking. We paired up in groups for our own safety. In the mishap that we get charged by a group of boar, we will have someone there with us to help defend the attack. I could hear twigs breaking in the distance. I put my hand up to my mouth and told my partner to be quiet and listen. The twigs breaking sounded like we were coming upon a large group of wild boars. I could hear the sniffing and grunting noises being made by the larger boars. We took position and aimed our bows. I looked through my night vision scope, and up ahead I could see a large group of boars sniffing the ground, slowly moving forward. I estimated at least 15 boars in my immediate view, from all sizes, to small piglets up to a large female by their side. My partner tapped on my shoulder and said, "Look to your right." I glanced my night vision over a few yards, and there stood an enormous boar like I have never seen before. It was the size of a small car. This thing stood around 6 feet tall and had to be over 1,000 pounds in weight. I whispered to my hunting partner, "What the hell is that thing?" He responded, "I don't know, but don't shoot. It will take us down so fast we don't stand a chance." I glanced back at the gigantic boar and couldn't believe my eyes. It was 3 or 4 times the size of the larger females with piglets. It made a very deep grunting noise as it came closer and closer, sniffing the floor as it creeped forward. At this moment, my partner took a warning shot into the ground to keep the pigs from coming closer. I could see the pig freeze in my scope and swiftly turn back running at full speed. My heart was beating so hard I felt I almost passed out. I had never seen a creature so large in my life. It seemed prehistoric, and I never knew these boars could grow so large.